Today, the House GOP announces an investigation into the Biden family. Nancy Pelosi steps down as House Democrat leader, and Biden promises to strengthen digital COVID-19 certificates. We've got all of that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and it is Thursday, but it's not just any Thursday. It is Pat and Stu Thursday. So We, of course, have Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America, which you should be subscribed to, not only on YouTube, but also wherever you got your podcasts. Also, Pat Gray, host of Pat Gray Unleashed, which you also should be subscribed to wherever you get your podcasts. Go do it. I'm going to yell at you. I don't know why I'm so angry.
I think you should berate them. Continue.
Should
Continue,
I? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I can't wait to get your take on this, guys. Earlier today, we had some of the House GOP who announced, this is James Comer, Jim Jordan, announced an investigation into the Biden family as, of course, they are now poised to take over the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. So I want to let's go ahead and play this clip of this announcement. Watch.
Whistleblowers describe President Biden as chairman of the board for these businesses. He personally participated in meetings and phone calls. Documents show that he was a partner with access to an office. To be clear, Joe Biden is the big guy. This evidence raises troubling questions about whether President Biden is a national security risk and about whether he is compromised by foreign governments. The Biden family's business dealings implicate a wide range of criminality, from human trafficking to potential violations of the Constitution. In the 118th Congress, this committee will evaluate the status of Joe Biden's relationship with his family's foreign partners and whether he is a president who is compromised or swayed by foreign dollars and influence. I want to be clear. This is an investigation of Joe Biden.
So he went on to assert that the Biden family flourished and became millionaires by simply offering access to the family. And this committee says that they have uncovered evidence of conspiracy to defraud the United States, wire fraud, violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, money laundering, tax evasion, and more. They also obtained several, they're called SARS, suspicious activity reports, and one generated by JP Morgan implies Hunter Biden had a connection to a human trafficking operation. This is, look, I'm not going to ask you guys if you are shocked to hear these allegations being levied against the Biden family, because these are things that we've been talking about for a very long time here at Blaze, specifically Glenn, who's done many, many chalkboards and specials on, the Biden family corruption, which I highly recommend that you guys go out and find and watch. But I think my question is more, do you think anything will actually happen with this? Because it's a lot of, it doesn't take a lot to go out on stage in front of a podium and have that viral video moment where you're saying, damn it, we're going to launch an investigation into Joe Biden and we're going to take him down. It's a lot more to actually go through that process and have the chutzpah to follow through, because you got to believe that the White House, the Biden administration, Joe Biden himself, Hunter Biden, none of them are going to cooperate with all of these requests. So what do you do? How are they successful at this?
Well, first of all, they can't really do anything but cooperate with the request from Hunter because they have the entire laptop. So
well, that's true.
You kind of have to say yes at that point. No, I mean, I think you're right. It's understandable to be skeptical. And I think if this is their entire plan for what they're going to do in the House, which is come up with an investigation on Joe and Hunter Biden, it's not going to be received all that well. It's of course going to be put through a partisan prism. And I think looking at this where will Joe Biden be able to be the focus of this? He mentioned there at the end, I want to make sure I'm clear, this is an investigation of Joe Biden. And that was meant to say this isn't about Hunter and the prostitutes he sleeps with, which is something that is noticeable or notable, and I think illegal. I think a lot of the things he did on camera were illegal, and I feel like I would get punished for them if I did them. Pat gets pulled over every 3 days. He's just driving down the street 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. I don't know how these people get away with these things, but an investigation on Hunter is it's one of the things, it's a low hurdle for Republicans to clear. They absolutely have to look at Joe Biden and his business ties. If you go back to Peter Schweizer's book, the work he's done over the past few years on this, I mean, he called Joe Biden the most corrupt vice president in the history of the United States. What is lost is people like Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother, who's involved in all of this stuff. There is a lot there. The question is whether you can get to the American people and convince them that this is just not some partisan attack. A lot of the attacks against Donald Trump, I think, ran into that category where, yes, every Democrat believed them. Every Democrat believed he was a Russian asset or that he was trying to, overturn the government on January 6th or whatever they were claiming. But it didn't cross the gap to the average person. Most people were pretty skeptical at attacks from the other side. You're really going to have to find hard evidence here. If they can find that, I think it can make a difference. And, look, Joe Biden's already unpopular. If he also is corrupt, that's another thing, another log to put on the fire as you're trying to look at 2024 and either him or someone else running for president trying to defeat them. Showing massive corruption in the Democratic Party is a part of this mission that Republicans have to try to accomplish as they take control of the House. It just can't be the whole thing. It can't be just, hey, we're going to have big showy investigations and then throw our hands up and just say, oh gosh, well, we couldn't get anything else done. They're going to have to do more than that, but it is a big, important part of the process, I think.
Yeah.
They're going to have to really man up because the Democrats are going to do everything they can to get this stopped and say that this is all they're about is investigating Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. And they're going to forget about the fact and probably most people won't remember that they did this every 5 minutes with Donald Trump.
Which is why it's so frustrating to be like, wait, we're going to have to field those because they're still doing it with the January 6th hearings.
They are. Yeah. And what was it? Was it the Heritage Foundation that found 857 crimes or whatever on that laptop? They went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and Hunter was guilty of 857 crimes. Joe was, I think they said he was guilty of 6 or 7 felonies. So it'll be interesting to see.
Just 7?
Yeah, just 7.
Oh,
just 7 felonies that they could count, just from the laptop information. But we'll see. I don't have a lot of faith in the Republicans, but I'm hopeful.
You're more optimistic than I am, Pat.
Yeah, you don't think it's going to happen?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't believe in it. Look, we have dealt with these, establishment Republicans. Even sometimes, look, I'm going to, if it's between Ted Cruz and a Democrat, I'm obviously going to vote for Ted Cruz. But it's like, most of the time, he's voting for things like sending our money to Ukraine, but, he'll get that viral clip of him admonishing the Democrats that he wants to post on Twitter and brag about. But when it comes time to actually do something, I don't see him really doing much. So I don't know. It just feels like nothing really is going to come of this. GOP is horrible at messaging. So I think that we're going to see them not use good messaging when they're delivering this to the American people. And then we're just going to be stuck in some, the left is going to be accusing us of all of the things that they're doing. And the GOP is going to have done nothing to help us show no, actually, all of the things that you're accusing Donald Trump of being is actually Joe Biden. And we actually have the documents to prove it. But then by that point, no one's listening because the GOP has fumbled on the messaging so badly.
And that's certainly possible. I could totally understand the skepticism. There's also a lot of reason to believe that, showboating winds up being a big part of all of this, which is frustrating to me because there's a lot of, Lindsey Graham is a really good example of this. A guy who's a superstar in all the investigations as he's swagging his finger and getting viral clips. And then he votes see our conservative review ratings 54%. You know what I mean? Is this a guy you want? You can't do better than that in South Carolina?
Right.
You can always find somebody who's going to yell during a clip. But maybe get someone who has a decent voting record in there. But if you look at, I think there's only so much you can do when you're out of power, right? And Republicans can't pass anything. They are going to get stopped every time by the Senate. And even if somehow they got something through the Senate, it would be vetoed by the president. They can't pass anything. They can't even stop judicial nominees. The Senate is going to handle that whole process. So what they can do are investigations. They can pass parts of their agenda that they think are important to communicate to the American people and say, hey, if we were in power, we would do things like this, cut your taxes and balance the budget or whatever they want to do. You can do that sort of stuff. The other thing to think about is with the January 6th commission, I think the January 6th committee was really a joke, right?
Yeah.
To me,
yes.
I got nothing out of it. And I would have looked, if they had solid evidence that would have proven a case, I would have been open to hearing it. Like, I'm not like, some idealistic guy who's going to ignore every single piece of bad thing, every bad thing that's said about Donald Trump, but they couldn't come up with anything, right? And I didn't think it was much of anything. There is some evidence, though, that in certain places, particularly in swing states, was somewhat effective with moderate voters. And in this past election, and there were some situations where you had people who were more on the, what the media would call election deniers, where they were coming out and saying the election was stolen over and over again and making that a central part of their campaign. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to make it a central part of your campaign. And there's some evidence that shows in purple states they rejected those people. I mean, most of the people that Donald Trump endorsed in swing states lost. The overwhelming majority of them lost. And, if you can do the reverse of that and say, put enough doubt in people's minds in the middle to look at Joe Biden and say, well, he says he's a moderate and he says he's so buttoned up and he's a lunch bucket Joe, but he's also really corrupt. That was the feeling about Hillary Clinton, right? People felt she was corrupt. She was corrupt.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is corrupt, but Joe Biden doesn't have the stench that he should have for all the stuff that he's done. If they can just move some people in the middle, these things might actually be worth it. I'm with you. They usually blow the messaging on it, but I think it is worth trying here. I think it is worth taking control, looking at these things. Maybe you get a piece of information you never expected. There's a lot of people, a lot of his business partners, Hunter's partners in particular, want to talk out against the Bidens. They just can't get a voice in the media. Maybe this gives them some sort of voice.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the GOP sucking, yesterday Ron DeSantis was asked about a potential GOP civil war, and he says everyone needs to chill out. Watch.
Look, I think we just finished this election. Okay, people just need to chill out a little bit on some of this stuff. I mean, seriously, we just ran an election. We have this Georgia runoff coming, which is very important for Republicans to win that Georgia runoff. I mean, I know around the country, Florida was kind of the biggest bright spot. It was not so bright in many other parts of the country.
Obviously, he's addressing all of the reporters asking him about, what about you and Trump? And, obviously there's a big divide there. Trump's attacking him. I think he's handled it as well as he possibly could have so far.
Yep. I love this guy.
He seems
I really like him.
Very genuine and really good at his job.
Yes,
yeah.
He is. He's, he seems to be really solid policy-wise, and he's really good at getting the message out, and he's not afraid of the media, and he can put them in their place, just like Kari Lake did in Arizona. Didn't get her the governorship, apparently, but for DeSantis, he could be going right back at Trump, and he's not doing that, and I think that's really brilliant. It's smart, because the ones who go against Trump like that usually pay a pretty hefty price. So I don't want him to do that before, let's not ruin him before he even runs for president.
Right. Yeah, that's what I find so fascinating about this conversation is that you have to constantly remind people that, Ron DeSantis just won re-election in Florida.
Yeah.
He's not announced anything.
Right.
Why are we, I've seen all sorts of people say all sorts of things about, you have to be loyal to Trump and he better not run. Everyone needs to be loyal to Trump. It's Trump's to give or take. And it's like,
I don't get that.
That's what a primary process is for, but also B, why are we even bickering and arguing about this? Because
no one's announced
but Trump. And the more that do you think for 1 second that the GOP establishment and the Democrats don't love that you guys are bickering about something that hasn't even happened yet?
Absolutely.
They love it.
Yeah.
So can we just calm down?
Yeah, and look, I think DeSantis has the perfect tone there.
Right.
He's done this.
Yep.
He's had a couple times to answer this. He's going to get asked about it every single day. He's going to have to try really hard not to slip up and inflame this stupid battle. I mean, look, again, a lot of good things you could say about Donald Trump. He was the aggressor here. There's no reason for him to be attacking Ron DeSantis at this point. I understand that he looks at him as his main competition. And to be honest, he did it a couple times, and I haven't heard it in a while. So maybe he's kind of realized, this isn't really the time for this. Wait till he announces. We'll see what's happening. Because you never know. I mean, look, the most popular governor in America 2 years ago on this day was probably Andrew Cuomo. So,
a lot can change.
A lot can change in a very short, maybe 2.5 years ago to get to that number. But a lot can change in a very short period of time. You never know what's going to happen here. I think that it's silly for Donald Trump to be attacking him because, you don't want to. One of the things that Donald Trump always said, it wasn't always true, but he said it all the time. And I think most people looked at it and said, hey, I'm on his side on this one. He said, I always punch back. I'm never the first person who punches. I always punch back. And a lot of the time it was true. The media would criticize him for days and days and days and days. Then he'd say, the media is the enemy of the people, and everyone would get all upset. Or, one of his other, some people would be criticizing him on the right, and he wouldn't say anything. And then all of a sudden he'd blurt it out, and he'd be the one presented as the attacker. He's like, I'm fighting back.
Right.
Here he's not. I mean, there's no case for him. There's no reason. Ron DeSantis hasn't said one bad thing about this guy. Even after being attacked, he hasn't said it. But he's done something better than I think Ted Cruz did in this situation. Cruz attempted this line. But what Cruz said was like, I love him. He's hilarious. He's great. What a wonderful guy. I can't wait to give him a big hug next time I see him. I know he called my wife a whore. That was ugly. But I love him. I love the guy. And I get why he did that, right? He tried to stay out of it, hoped he got down to the last.
I'm not sure I saw the horror message. But
it was ugly, right? He called his wife
ugly.
I mean, I don't know which would be worse. So, yeah, sure, he said my dad killed the president.
Yeah. That whole thing. We laughed
but
about
he's great.
it.
Let's sit down. And then, I think there's you come off as weak there.
Yeah.
What DeSantis has done well, at least the first couple times, is to say, look, this is all noise. I'm not going to play into it. But, look at the scoreboard. I think we did really well here.
Yeah.
And that's
right.
it.
It was perfect.
And leave it.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
I think it's going to be hard for him to do that forever, right? At some point, there's going to be a time where these guys meet up and they're going to be critical of each other. But I think, DeSantis has an interesting road where he can say, look, I like a lot of the policies. But we saw what happened when we try to go down this road. No one can seem to replicate what Trump does. Trump's election record, he won one. He won one election. All of his endorsees have been kind of rough in these elections. He won his first time. He lost the second time. I mean, it's not like he's not a juggernaut, and he's the only one who seems to be able to win with this profile. There's something about where Trump just being Trump, and maybe guys like Doug Mastriano can't pull this off. Yeah. It's going to be Trump or nothing, and they should fight this out in the primary.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of the GOP sucking, we've got more about that here in the next segment. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Upside. So inflation is hitting us all, and we're all trying to think of different ways to, maybe cut back. Like maybe when you go to the store and instead of buying meat, you just buy bugs, because that's what they want us to do.
Bugs technically are meat. I mean,
fair.
They're crunchy, but if you eat enough of them.
You got to pick them out of your teeth, which I don't find to be too appealing. But you know what? Look, this is Joe Biden's America, and you got to cut back. But in all seriousness, Upside is a really, really great app for anyone who, does things like buys gas, groceries, or dines out, which is all of us. And so now you're not having to cut back because you're getting cash back on every purchase. I'm on empty almost in my car. So when I get in my car to go home, I go on my app, I search for the deals at gas stations around me. On my way home, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to know that when I check in at that gas station, I'm going to be receiving cash back on something that I had to purchase anyway. This is a no-brainer. Go download the free Upside app and use promo code NEWS to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That is $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code NEWS. Really sad news, guys. Earlier today, Nancy Pelosi said that she will step aside as the House Democrat leader at the end of the 117th Congress. Watch.
My friends, no matter what title you all, my colleagues, have bestowed upon me, Speaker, Leader, Whip, there is no greater official honor for me than to stand on this floor and to speak for the people of San Francisco. This I will continue to do as a member of the House, speaking for the people of San Francisco, serving the great state of California, and defending our Constitution. And with great confidence in our caucus, I will not seek re-election to Democratic leadership in the next Congress. For me, the hour's come for a new generation to lead the Democratic caucus that I so deeply respect.
Boy, those S's are hard.
Oh, it's actually
San
mean.
Francisco.
Mean for her that she came from San Francisco. There's so many S sounds in that. That's
San
just-
Francisco. I've had such a great success serving on the House floor. I'm going to step aside.
You're better at Nancy Pelosi than she is.
Than Nancy?
Yes.
By far.
So, okay, Democrat caucus chair Hakeem Jeffries is seen by many colleagues as her natural successor, but reports say that Adam Schiff is also vying for the position, which,
I can't believe Adam Schiff would want more power and more camera time. I'm surprised to hear
please.
that. That's very surprising.
surprising.
Stop that.
Yeah.
So how sad are we? Sad?
Very, very sad. I mean, I know you're sad. You've got the incredible Nancy Pelosi impression.
I am
What are you
really
gonna do
sad.
with
I mean,
her?
she'll still be there,
She'll
but
still
she's
be in
not
the
going to.
Congress, yeah.
Yeah, but she's not going to be speaking as much.
That's
so
very hard.
that messes up my content.
I will say, I am as the purveyor of Nancy Pelosi sucks pens. I'm a little concerned. We actually did come up with the promo code BYE Nancy, BYE Nancy, for 25% off if you want one. They are in stock right now. They've come in and out of stock many times. NancyPelosiSucksPen.com. So I am, look, as a person who's paying for both of my kids' colleges with Nancy Pelosi sucks pens, I'm a little concerned about this development. I really wanted her to be around forever. But look,
She basically has been, because she's like 150 years old.
I know. I mean,
So
she's older than Biden.
She's preserved.
By what?
She's-
4 years? 3 years?
She's 82.
She's preserved in vodka.
82.
I think does she get Botox in her tongue? Because I
might
think
be
that
what
might
it
be what's
is.
happening.
That might be what
it's
it
just
is.
not moving around as fast as it's supposed to. It gets kind of puffy.
Yeah, well, I mean, also the teeth falling out is probably part of the problem as well. I would
could be.
imagine it would be very hard to talk when you're just trying to keep your teeth from falling.
Probably very difficult.
I mean, I wouldn't know.
I like
but
that
I'm just saying.
she's like, this is the hour. This is the time to turn it over to the next generation. At 82, that's the time. I just want to make sure I understand the line here. The good thing we can all unite on is she's going out with a loss. And while this election did not feel so good and we didn't get all the things that we wanted, we didn't get all the bright and shiny toys, we do get to send Nancy Pelosi packing with a giant L on her forehead.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
And that,
true.
yeah, that helps. But yeah, I'm glad she's turning it over to the younger generation. Adam Schiff, who's only like
81.
76.
How
Hakeem
old is
Jeffries
I don't know.
is
We should
52.
look that up.
I'll
but
look it up.
Jeffries
he's-
is 52.
Jeffries is 52.
That would be, that's a big change, right?
Yeah, it's a big difference. But Schiff is also looking at replacing Dianne Feinstein.
62 is
Which
Schiff.
is a little premature because Dianne has some good years left in her. I mean, don't diminish my dementia-garchy that we got going on here because
Dementia-garchy.
I'm loving the Biden dementia, the Feinstein dementia. You got Nancy who's got dementia.
John
I believe.
Fetterman's about to join?
Fetterman's
Yeah.
about to join the club. It's
This is
not dementia,
great.
but it's
Something
a
close.
form.
Yeah.
It's very close. We could have a full-fledged dementia-garchy in place very soon, and I'm excited about it.
I want to, we're kind of crapping on Democrats here. I'd like to switch gears and crap on Republicans a little bit. So yesterday, I mentioned before the break that we would talk more about the GOP sucking. Yesterday, the Respect for Marriage Act, which would codify same-sex marriage protections into law, passed a procedural vote with the support of 12 Republican senators. This is Roy Blunt, Richard Burr. To me, all of the likely suspects, I think. Shelley Moore, Capito, Susan Collins, Todd Young, Joni Ernst. That one I was a little surprised at. Cynthia Lummis, Lisa Murkowski, Rob Portman, Mitt Romney, Dan Sullivan, and Tom Tillis. So this is obviously going to repeal the Defense of Marriage Act that legally defined marriage as one man and one woman.
It's not even in effect right now. We should be clear.
Right. That's
not even doing
right.
anything.
It's not doing anything because of the Supreme Court. But their senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom, Greg Baylor, said the bill gives the IRS one more building block in its case to take away the taxes and status of nonprofits that hold traditional views on marriage. And it creates a threat to religious social service agencies that work with the government and could affect how religious freedom cases are analyzed more broadly. I know that Senator Mike Lee, agrees with this analysis to the extent that he drafted an amendment to kind of tack on there that would make sure that if this passes, that all of these, religious organizations were protected. And of course, that was rejected. So Yay! I'm so glad we have the conservatives in office that we need to defend ourselves from all of this big government and wokeism. I'm really, really excited about that.
That's really impressive. I mean, this is, of course, the Republicans are getting what they want here, which is they don't want to have to be asked about this anymore, right? So they want to be able to pass this so that people can't say, well, what about the Supreme Court overturning it? And what about this? And what? So they want to be able to say, no, guys, I swear, look, they've already passed this law. They want it off the table so they don't have to talk about it anymore. Of course, Democrats, if I was a Democrat, I think I would want this because, first of all, I would have no idea what the Constitution is. But secondly, it's a very silly thing to be worried about. No one is in the process of taking away gay marriage right now. Clarence Thomas, they keep citing this one part of his concurring opinion where he said, look, the foundation this decision was built on is insane. It's the same thing we're saying right now about Roe versus Wade, and it applies to these other cases. I think we should look at those. Literally no one else joined that opinion.
And who the hell has been clamoring for an end to interracial marriage? Who has ever even said anything about it? Why is that included? It's just bizarre.
Well, because they think that it's on that same, because it comes under that same judicial philosophy. And look, it's not the point of the thing, right? It's about how the process went to get that thing instituted. And so
it's not that you're anti that thing.
Right, exactly. Right. Like you could be, like, there are many legal scholars who think gay marriage is fantastic, but also think Obergefell was a disaster legally. That's a totally okay thing to think. It's what a lot of people thought about Roe versus Wade. Get these things done the right way is probably the right way to do this. And of course, I don't know why there's any federal marriage statutes. What does a federal government have to do with this at all?
And that's my problem with it, is that you got all of these Republicans who are just totally okay with the government being involved in. I mean, I thought it was BS that I had to go pay for a marriage license in my county.
Totally. And there were 13 of them.
Of what value did you get from that? Nothing.
Right,
nothing.
Exactly.
I got nothing from that. It's no piece. No, I never am like, remember that time, honey, we went down to we got that whole piece of paper from the Connecticut post office or whatever we got it. No, who cares? So I think that there's an interesting part of this where, like, I can understand why both sides are doing it, but it's obviously it's not on the borderline. No one's thinking about the other one they always say is contraception. The same, because it's under that same judicial philosophy that kind of.
So we're going to codify contraception in federal law too.
Right. I think they will. I think they'll try.
Well, I bet we will.
And look, there's no opposition to it, really, right? Like, no one's going to be like, oh gosh, no, you can't have contraception. There's no one doing that. What Republicans want is to get rid of the argument, right? Yeah. Every single election, they're saying this person wants to take away gay marriage. They always say that, and they want to get rid of the argument. That's not a good idea. That's not how you pass laws, though. No. Just because you don't want to be bothered with a dumb argument, you shouldn't be passing laws.
Yeah, because you don't want to actually get ahead of the messaging and explain that no, it's actually bigger than that. It goes deeper than that. This is what the real problem is. They just roll over and just let them do whatever they want. It's so freaking frustrating.
And yet, nobody can tell us who to love, but they can tell you how many you can love. Right. When are we going to stop that madness?
It's coming soon.
When can I marry 5 or 6 or 12 women if I want to? Or, 3 women and 3 or 4 men at the same time? Why would you, seriously, why would you limit that number? If you can't control who you love, why shouldn't you be able to love several people?
Well, like people talk about, like Nick Cannon has had 11 kids in the last 3 months.
Yeah, marry all those wives.
Right, he can,
mothers at least.
It's completely okay, completely legal, many times praised if you don't get married.
Right.
But if you do get married, it's illegal and everyone thinks it's terrible. Like, that's not going to last, right? Yeah. Like, there's no way there's no consistency here.
All right, we got to take another quick break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Bank on Yourself. So, look, if you have a 401k or IRA, similar retirement plan, which everyone should have some sort of plan, what you don't realize is the government actually controls it, not you. They're going to decide how much you can borrow, when you can pay it back, and then, of course, if you take it out too soon or wait too long, you're going to owe taxes and penalties, even though this is your money that you have earned. Bank on Yourself is a better way to grow and protect your hard-earned money. And this retirement plan alternative has never had a losing year in over 160 years. I certainly would trust that much better than the Biden administration and economy and what they are doing to your 401k or IRA. You're also going to get tax-free retirement income and built-in inflation protection. Your money is guaranteed to grow by a larger dollar amount every single year in both good times and bad. You can get a free report with all of the details of how they're going to do this over at bankonyourself.com/matters. That is bankonyourself.com/matters. Yesterday, the White House released a statement on their dedication to an increased use of COVID-19 digital identification, of course, echoing the declarations of many other G20 leaders. Under the 23rd section of the statement, the White House says, we acknowledge the importance of shared technical standards and verification methods under the framework of the IHR to facilitate seamless international travel, interoperability, and recognizing digital solutions and non-digital solutions, including proof of vaccinations. We support continued international dialogue and collaboration on the establishment of trusted global digital health networks as part of the efforts to strengthen prevention and response to future pandemics that should capitalize and build on the success of the existing standards and digital COVID-19 certificates. Again, just recently, the Business 20 Summit called on the G20 to adopt a global framework to track the vaccination status of individuals via some sort of a digital framework. I want to just kind of throw in here while we're talking about like crazy conspiracy, because like someone might look at that and be like, wow, that sounds a lot like, I don't want to get flagged, so I'm thinking of how to say this. I'm coming up short
a conspiracy.
here.
It sounds like a conspiracy.
It's all a conspiracy. It's not like we're like all of these world leaders are working together to create just one
one governmental entity.
Thank you. So I wouldn't want to say that, but
Right.
I would also point out that YouTube recently flagged a video of the 2022 World Government Summit that they actually put out that was called, so I can't get flagged for this. I'm reading something that it was called, Are We Ready for a New World Order? From the people, the World Government Summit, they put out the video and YouTube flagged it as a conspiracy theory.
So good.
Yeah. So
impressive.
And of course, the flag says the New World Order is a conspiracy theory, which hypothesizes a secretly emerging totalitarian world government.
And as they're posting videos that prove the theory, those videos are being flagged. It's great.
It's like sort of like it's almost a libs of TikTok thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except it's just like the video that the original transgender person posted. It's like, like libs of TikTok didn't even post it. They just flagged the original post.
Right.
It really is obviously ridiculous. And this stuff is it's scary in that like it can grow out of control, right? We, of course, as a sovereign nation, have the right to tell anyone we want to not come in for any number of reasons. We of course have the right to do that. If we want to stop people from traveling here because we don't like their hair color, we completely have the right to do that because we are a sovereign nation that makes up our own rules. And unless you're a Democrat who thinks the border should be open, we all, I think, are on the same page on that. But when you're starting to work on these global organizations and sharing technology and information, everybody knows how this is going to end up in a bad way. Like, this is not going to work. They're going to screw this up. They're going to give all of your personal bank account information to, like, President Xi in China somehow. Something bad is going to happen. And, like, they can make it seem like, oh, it's no big deal. We're just trying to make travel easier. But who buys that at this point?
Pat?
Yeah, I mean, travel's not that hard right now. It's really not. There's no reason for this. And it's fascinating to, see the governmental organization that they are trying to put together. And then to watch the WEF's Klaus Schwab and the way he acts and interacts with the world leaders, it's pretty clear he's got more say-so and more clout than he should.
Right.
Because who the hell are you?
Right.
The head of the World Economic Forum? So what? Beat it. But he pretty much seemed to rule the roost at G20.
Well, when we're talking about the any conspiracy theory of like an amazing redo or something along those lines, it's so fascinating to watch them constantly run cover for this because, I mean, I've done it many times, but like I literally just went in here and I went to Google and I typed in like if you were going to come up with a synonym for amazing redo or like amazing do-over, WEF, type it into Google, and it literally takes you to the World Economic Forum's page that reads that phrase right there.
Is that amazing? It's amazing.
There is an urgent need for global stakeholders to cooperate in simultaneously managing the direct consequences, of course, of the COVID-19 crisis. To improve the state of the World Economic Forum is starting, you know what? I'm just going to say it, the Great Reset Initiative. It's right here on, like, literally online. You can go to the website. It has it all laid out, how you're going to do it, how they're going to do it, what they want to do. And it's a conspiracy theory according to YouTube. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I keep making fun of Glenn because he named his book The Thing You're Not Allowed to Say. Like, how do you promote your book if you can't say the phrase? But that is the title of the book, The Great Reset, and then it is on their page as well. That's why it's not some conspiracy theory. Like, they're bragging about it and they think it's great. And like, look, we disagree with what their definition of great is, right? Yeah. But they think it's awesome. They think it's a fantastic idea. They think, hey, we have a chance here with all of this stuff going on, and people are desperate and are willing to give up all of their freedoms because, you know, a virus is going around. So they think they can use that as an opportunity to grab control of all sorts of levers and move them in the directions they want to. That's not a conspiracy theory. No, it's just what's actually going on.
Literally what's happening.
And they don't care that we know now.
No,
and they're just saying it.
Yeah,
they're just plain saying it.
Gaslighting. More gaslighting.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe they can be stopped now. They're too far along. They can't be stopped, and so why not just say it? And they do.
Do you agree with them that they're too far along to be stopped?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I don't.
Okay, good. All right, let's end this segment on a sort of, is that a high note?
I feel like
that's optimism. So we're going to end it there. We'll be right back. I'm sure we'll give him more pessimism in the next.
Oh, yeah, he's going to totally reverse himself.
Plus, I was absolutely lying right there.
Earlier today, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee claimed there is a direct correlation between slave reparations and, yes, COVID-19. Watch.
Stands on the basis of facts. There is no doubt that we have been impacted. The DNA and the trajectory of slavery to today. For example, at COVID, Black African Americans got COVID at a rate nearly 1.5 times higher than that of white people, or hospitalized at a rate nearly 4 times higher and 3 times likely to die. COVID hit us very desperately. Interestingly, a recent peer-reviewed study from Harvard Medical School suggests that reparations for African Americans could have cut COVID-19 transmission and infection rates both among blacks and the population at large.
What?
Reparations are curative. They're not punishment.
So much brilliance in that giant head of hers, man. Wow. Because it couldn't have been any other factors like obesity, comorbidities, anything like that you maybe should be looking at when you're talking about the rate in which blacks were hospitalized or died or anything like that with COVID.
Yeah, and by the way, her information is outdated. That was the case early on in the pandemic, but it actually reversed itself in about mid-2021. And
well, that's because the pandemic started out to be racist and would throw itself directly at African Americans.
Desperately, I heard.
Desperately. And then it stopped doing that. Later
well, that's
on.
good.
Yeah,
that's good. Because that's racist. That virus.
It is.
But I mean, like, she just missed. There was a giant report. I think it was in the New York Times recently saying that's exactly what happened. It reversed itself, and now white people are dying at a a higher rate than black people and have been for over a year.
It is still racist.
Yeah, that's true. It should be killing at the exact same rate.
For everybody.
1.87, it's got to be 1.87 on the other side. If it's 1.86, it's racism. That's how dumb our debates are these days. And when you talk about dumb, you talk about Sheila Jackson Lee. She is, I mean, if you've got a top 5 dumbest people in Congress. You got Eric Swalwell. You got on the Senate side, Mazie Hirono. It's got to be in there. Who's the guy?
Hank
Johnson, the Guam flipping guy. Capsize. You got Sheila Jackson Lee in there.
AOC.
Maxine Waters would be in there. There's a good collection of dolts out there in Congress, but Sheila Jackson Lee is special among them.
Just to demonstrate how dumb she is, she walked into NASA, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. And she was there with a bunch of constituents and some other VIPs, and she asked the NASA director at the time at the Johnson Space Center if the U.S. flag was still flying on Mars. And
or do we know? Were they able to answer that?
It's no longer flying on Mars.
No!
Yeah, I was really disappointed to hear it, too.
Wow, that's
Apparently
a surprise.
big wind blew it off the planet.
No.
Yeah, they don't have the gravity that we do, so they couldn't keep it there, and it flew right off the planet. So
I want to get to really quickly another stupid story. San Francisco is offering a monthly stimulus program exclusively for transgender residents. This is called the Guaranteed Income for Trans People program, and it's led by the Transgender District, a neighborhood of the city for transgender people. It's going to give 55 transgender residents $1,200 a month for up to 18 months. And it is, of course, it's going to prioritize enrollment of transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, and intersex people who are also Black, Indigenous, or a person of color. So, because you want to make sure you don't.
So if you're white and you have all this stuff,
if you're a white transgender, you get moved to the back of the line. You're going to the back of the bus.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. You don't get free money.
I'm going to do this on Students America tonight because I just love this story.
It's so stupid.
And I love the list of 97 genders. And the best part is there's not 97 boxes, there's 98 boxes. The 98th box is not listed. Just in case you have a different gender, not in the group of 97
you don't fit
genders.
into any of the 97.
But I need to, next time I see Alex Stein, I'm going to beg him to go down to San Francisco and apply for this grant. And because I think you just pick like 2 of the 97, you don't know what they mean, and just say, I went from that one to that one. And what are they going to do? Tell you no? If this is really what they're doing, you get $1,200 a month for, 18 months? It's pretty sweet. And I don't see how they can tell you no. Like, they're so weird with their terminology. Just say, I don't know, from Xi to Xia. It's like, how would you go? I don't know what either of the words mean. Maybe this has happened to me. I don't even know. Like, in all seriousness, maybe we're all transgendered and we're bouncing around weekly to different titles that we don't even understand. Yeah. I think we should all get free money here. Also, I don't understand how this is constitutional. Like, how can you pick one group of people and just hand them money from the government and say, well, it's sexual orientation or color of skin or really. I thought this was all supposed to be the way we didn't do things. Now this is the only way we do them. I don't think that's a good idea.
Plus, I just love the term BIPOC so much. I love it.
It's good.
The Black Indigenous people of color. So that covers, that just, whitey, we want nothing to do with you.
Right.
But all of these people are wonderful, and we're going to give them special benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not racist at all.
No, not at all.
Just making decisions based on race. That's all.
That's all.
That's not
What's
racist.
racist about that?
That's not racist. No.
We got to take a break. We'll be back.
Unbelievable.
What a world.
Well, trans people just breaking barriers everywhere. I'd like to play for you Brazilian deaf-mute trans woman singing Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You. Watch.
Brazilian deaf-mute trans woman sings Whitney Houston. I will always love you.
Come on.
How brave. That is so courageous. Oh my gosh. That is so brave. How wonderful. That is beautiful. Oh my gosh. I've never heard anything this lovely in my life.
This is so mean. I mean, come on.
I know.
Is that a dying whale?
Why would they allow that
He's crying.
He's crying. Oh my gosh.
And he won.
Seriously, do we have to do that because it's a deaf mute trans person? Come on now. Come on.
It's a lot of stuff piled up on top of each other to deal with.
Yeah, that is a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot of work in life to go through that one that way.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
If you're mute, I didn't think you could make any noise, even though. Can you do that if you're mute?
It just the mutes and the whales.
And Pat, I didn't realize you have such a beautiful
And maybe,
singing voice.
maybe
Yeah, I do.
cows
I
dying.
do.
I'm sorry, I just heard Pat's voice.
Oh.